A few years ago, I did a review on the Fox StepCast 100 fork, and in that review, I was saying I wish Fox would make it in the 120 and hinting that I think they would one day. Well, that day is here, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the 120 and also compare it to the 100. Although this won't be a full-on review of the fork, I will talk about my initial impressions of it. The Fox StepCast 120 that I'll be showing in this video is the 29er version, and the first thing that I'll point out is that this fork can run a 29er tire or a 27.5 plus tire, so the stanchions are spread apart a little bit, so again you can put a 27.5 plus in there. Fox claims that the 29er version of this fork weighs 3.58 pounds with a Cabolt, so that's the through axle that you thread with an Allen wrench, not this standard quick release, but it does include the star nut and this hose guide. So 3.58 for the 29er and 3.5 for the 27.5 version of this fork. And by the way, Fox's weights, they say, include a 165 millimeter steerer tube. Now I did my own weight with a full steerer tube, no star nut installed, and with this standard quick release, and I came up with 3.81 pounds. So this is the 100 millimeter version of the StepCast, and the first thing that you'll notice is the StepCast is cut off inside, whereas the new 120, the step is on the outside. Now I have not done an oil change on this fork since it's brand new, but I would imagine that since the StepCast is lower, that you don't have to reach up as far to access the nuts to, change the oil, whereas the 100 you had to reach up pretty far. Another obvious difference is the fact that the 100 was a 32 millimeter stanchion, so the width of these stanchion tubes, whereas the new 120 is actually a 34, so you've got thicker stanchion tubes. The 100 millimeter version of this fork weighs about 3 pounds, and the StepCast 120 is about half a pound heavier, like I said. So with those thicker stanchion tubes, you do get a fork that's a little bit heavier. However, you do get a fork that is stiffer, which is going to make the bike handle more precisely. When you're in a corner, it's going to allow you just to kind of keep the front wheel where you want it to go a little bit better. And not only will this fork be more precise by being stiffer, but it's also obviously going to be plusher with 20 millimeters more travel. So this is the factory series, which is the higher end, and it does have the Kashima coating. You can get this in the performance series without the Kashima coating and a few less adjustment features. So again, it is available at a little bit lower price point. Like I said, I'm not going to do a full review on this fork, but my initial impressions of riding this fork are excellent. Just as to be expected, it is a stiffer ride laterally, so the bike does handle better. It is more precise. The front wheel does not move around that much. Not that I noticed it too much with the 100, but just every little bit of stiffness advantage that you can have on a bike is just going to increase the handling performance of the bike. And this fork, this 120 with the 34 millimeter stanchion tubes, is no exception. The extra plushness is really nice as well. Now I did take out a volume spacer, as I did on the 100, and I like the more linear feel with the volume spacer removed. So the mid-stroke feel is more what I enjoy, because I have a lot of just consecutive bumps, a lot of roots that aren't a big impact, but that extra plushness in the mid-stroke helps those be smoother. Now, do I notice the increased half pound of the fork? Maybe a tad bit, but because the fork sits a little bit higher in its travel, it is easier to manual. So as far as the feel of the fork, I don't really notice it a whole lot. Now the bike does weigh a half a pound heavier, so maybe on a long climb, which I haven't done yet on this bike, I might notice it. But honestly, after riding this fork with the extra plushness and precision, I will take the extra half pound of this fork. Now, just like the 100 millimeter version of this fork, it is half pound lighter than its non-StepCast brethren. So Fox claims that this fork is just as stiff as the 34 millimeter stanchion tube 140, but half a pound lighter. So that'll wrap up this real quick first look video of the Fox StepCast 120, comparing it a little bit to the 100. Like I said, the extra half pound I think is worth it. I like the fact that cross-country bikes are getting more travel, especially in the front end, and I have a feeling that you're going to start seeing more of this fork on cross-country race bikes. So how about you? Do you use the Fox StepCast 120? I'm curious to know your thoughts, if your impressions are the same as mine. Any other questions or comments that you have, go ahead and drop those below. Thanks for watching.